All right, today we're going to dive into a really powerful theological idea called the Great Exchange. It's a concept that comes from a prophecy that's, get this, 2,700 years old, and it suggests that everything we tend to associate with negativity, things like failure, sickness, even death, was actually part of a massive divine trade. But to really get it, we have to start by shattering a very, very familiar image.
Yeah, the source material we're looking at today does not mess around. It kicks things off with this really startling statement, basically telling us to throw out all our popular, often romanticized ideas of a messiah. And the whole point isn't just shock value. It's about clearing the deck so we can make room for much deeper truth hidden in that ancient text.
And this is where you really see the clash. On one hand, you have the image we all kind of expect from a savior, right? Majestic, powerful, maybe even physically perfect. But then you have this ancient prophecy from Isaiah, and it paints a picture that is the complete and total opposite. So let's actually dig into this prophecy. The sermon we're drawing from really zeroes in on Isaiah chapter 53. Now, this was written about 700 years before the time of Jesus, and it describes the coming Messiah in a way that, frankly, no one saw coming. I mean, just look at this description. You can see right away why people at the time would have had a huge problem with this. He's described as not just ordinary, but completely unimpressive, even kind of pathetic, like a weak little plant trying to grow in a desert with nothing about him that would make you look twice. The source argues this is a huge reason why he was rejected. He just didn't look the part. So, of course, this leads to the big question. If this really is the promised savior, the hero of the story, then why all the suffering? Why the rejection and this total lack of anything impressive? Well, the sermon argues this wasn't some cosmic mistake. No, it was the entire point. There was a very profound purpose behind it all.
And to answer that question, the source breaks down the purpose of his suffering into four distinct actions, or as it calls them, four ministries. And what's wild is that all four of these reasons are packed into a single powerful verse in Isaiah's prophecy.
Yep, four deliberate acts, and each one is directly tied to a specific benefit for humanity. They all build on each other, leading up to the grand finale, so to speak. Okay, so first up is piercing. The sermon makes this really interesting connection to the crown of thorns, the piercing of the head, and says this symbolizes a direct cure for our flawed patterns of thought. You know, all the negatives, self-defeating, and biased thinking that pretty much runs our lives. And to show just how powerful our thoughts are, the sermon points to this incredible study. When students who were perfectly healthy were simply told they had a condition, a whopping 87% of them actually went on to develop it. I mean, that's the kind of skewed, reality-bending thinking that this piercing is presented as the direct cure for. All right, number 2 is crushing, and this one points directly to his death. You have to remember, in the ancient sacrificial system, an offering had to be broken or crushed. So this act is explained as the final, ultimate sacrifice, a single, one-time payment for all human wrongdoing, past, present, and future. Third, we have punishment, and the source is really clear here. Think of this in legal terms, like a courtroom transaction. By taking the official penalty himself, he legally absorbs the sentence that was owed by others. And the result of that transaction? Peace and freedom for anyone who accepts the deal. And that brings us to the last one, his wounds. The prophecy famously says, "By his wounds we are healed." The sermon really emphasizes that this isn't just about physical sickness, not just a cut on your arm, but a complete, holistic restoration of a person's entire well-being. Okay, so you take those four things we just talked about, the piercing, the crushing, the punishment, and the wounds, and you put them all together. What do you get? Well, they all point to one massive central idea. This is the real heart of the message, what the sermon calls the Great Exchange. So here it is, the big idea. A divine swap happened. A trade. He took on all the negative stuff of the human condition, failure, poverty, sickness, death, you name it. And in return, humanity got to receive all of his positives, victory, abundance, health, life. It's presented as a complete one-for-one swap. But, and this is a really big but, the sermon is adamant that this isn't just some dusty old theory for a theology class. The entire point is for this exchange to be applied, to be lived out. It's meant to go from being an idea in your head to a reality in your life. Which, of course, brings up a super practical question, right? Timing.
If this giant swap happened 2,000 years ago, what does that mean for us today? When do we actually get to experience the benefits of this great exchange?
The answer couldn't be more direct or more immediate. Now. The sermon argues that the effects of this exchange aren't something you have to wait for or hope for someday in the future. They are a present tense reality, available the very moment you choose to believe it and accept it.
And that leads us to the final, crucial takeaway, is this exchange was a completed transaction. If all those burdens of failure and poverty and sickness were truly transferred out of our account and into his, then it makes zero logical sense to keep carrying them. According to this teaching, it's like insisting on carrying around a debt that's already been paid in full.
So, we'll end with a question this entire explanation forces you to ask yourself. If the old weights you've been carrying, failures, sickness, misfortune, were genuinely taken from you in this great exchange, what's left? What are you supposed to hold on to instead? It's a thought that reframes not just your past, but the entire possibility of your present.